Welcome to another thrilling episode of The Trading Bell. This week on the show, we shall be speaking to a man that has continued to make headlines in the country, and that is Mohamed Mohamed. He is the CEO of troubled retailer Uchumi Supermarkets. He'll be talking to us about the journey ahead for the retail chain that has been struggling to stay on its feet. Thank you, Mohamed.
Thank you.
Quite an interesting name, Mohamed Mohamed.
It's actually Mohamed Mohamed.
All right, Mohamed Mohamed.
Yes, but we in short just say Mohamed Mohamed or Mohamed Mohamed.
All right.
Yes, yeah.
A very popular name in the Muslim world.
Yes, I think it's the most common. In fact, yeah, globally, it's the most common name.
Similar to Uchumi. Many Kenyans resonate with Uchumi, knowing that it's a brand that didn't start just yesterday. It's a brand that is over 15 years old, that has been in the market. Many Kenyans are really hoping that Uchumi can actually turn around. So far, we know that Uchumi, one of the listed stocks at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, has been having some turbulence when you look at how the stock has been performing, as well as how the company has been performing. Just paint for us a picture. What is the current state of affairs?
Okay, rightfully, as the way you said it, personally, I grew up with Uchumi, and that was the only brand I knew when I was growing up. And even from the time I was in school, where I was growing up in the neighborhood, it was all Uchumi. And rightfully so, many Kenyans of a certain age group have grown with the brand and have a lot of belief in it. And one thing that guys or people need to be aware of the brand is that it has supported a lot of these multi-billion companies today that you see in Kenya, because they all had a platform. That was the government plan then to ensure that the manufacturers had a platform to be able to showcase their products. So as we move, since then, Uchumi has had its own fair share of turbulences, problems, challenges. In 2006, it was placed under receivership, but the receivership was thereafter lifted. I think it was about in 2012, after a period of around 6 to 7 years of trying to reorganize the business. So there have been a lot of things have affected it, but you see where we are right now. We want to put it right, because we don't have time, or we don't want. I don't think we'll have a chance to falter this time with the increased competition that is in the market, with all the other local brands that have expanded and the international brands that have entered the market. So it's a totally new game in terms of how we're going to play in the market.
All right.
Yeah.
Mohamed, you're running a very interesting company that is at the center of a major storm when you look at the future of this organization, Uchumi. And right now, walk us through what is currently the turnaround strategy when it comes to bringing back Uchumi to a profitability status, and of course, recapturing the markets that Uchumi controlled back in the heydays.
Okay, the first option will be first to stabilize the business. On the existing locations, just make sure that the locations we have are fully optimized as far as stocking is concerned, the locations that we've talked about. These locations are sufficient at the present moment to get us to break-even point. Thereafter, of course, we'll go to re-strategies. We may not be able to recapture the market the way it was before, but we may, if you had the chairman's speech in the meeting, there's a big portion of the underserved people who we can penetrate and to be able to serve their needs. So we're looking at things to optimize on how we can work on e-commerce. I mean, those are things that are in the pipeline. We're also looking at how we can venture into the other convenience stores, which we've always been talking about. It's just that because of the disruptions that have existed, we've not really had a chance or opportunity to execute or implement some of these strategies.
All right. Yeah. Talk to us about your recent engagement with the creditors.
Yeah.
And you actually got into an agreement with them. Just explain this to us, and what will it mean for the retail chain?
It's a turning point for us. And it's giving us a chance to work with the creditors on the old debt, or on the outstanding amount that we have with them. We had to invoke this after several discussions and deliberations with various experts in the field both legal and financial. Because under the Solvency Act, really, you don't have many options. It's either you go into administration or a scheme of arrangement, or a CVA, or eventually liquidation. And I'm very passionate for the stakeholders not to lose their money. And I'm also very passionate about this business moving forward. So the CVA is a tough exercise, but the good thing, the confidence that the suppliers showed in the business, for me, I was really overwhelmed with joy. They gave us a vote of confidence. They supported it overwhelmingly. And it's a chance for us now to be able to re-engage them on kind of like a new platform without some of these old issues coming over, unless maybe someone can just decide to make trouble. And we can be able to restock. So we are looking towards engaging these suppliers. I also want to hear further from them, because now I'd like them to be part of the business, because this is also what the plan entails, without creating a management overload, but how we can work together, at least with the existing branches, to take them forward. Yeah.
And speaking about the creditors, break down the numbers for us. How much are we talking about that is owed to creditors, both secured and unsecured? If you could just help our viewers understand the mathematics around all this.
Okay, for the unsecured creditors, both for trade and non-trade, it was about 4.6 B. And for the secured creditors, it was about, because KCB was 1.5, Cooperative Bank about 300, ICBC about 100, so that's what, like 1.9 plus, so you can say 2.2 apart from the government for the banks, that is KCB, Cooperative, ICBC, and UBA. And then of course the bank is owed 1.2B from it, so for the secured creditors you're looking at about 3B. Now we've also got assets against those, which like the land in Kasarani was 2.8B, which we're trying to dispose, to be able to see how partially this is what now should be able to unlock some of the funds to be able to kickstart or jumpstart some of these negotiations or payments to suppliers moving forward. We've also got the Langata Hyper, but that is secured. I mean, it's encumbered. It secures some of the banks' financials. So the immediate, the one we know for a fact, once we complete whatever discussions or mediations we have about the land through the authorities right now, then that should be able to provide the first part of unlocking some cash. Now, meanwhile, we're still looking at other options. We're still looking how we can work with the banks through other mechanisms, say through collateral management, through stock financing, or even being able to engage investors to come on board, because there's some sort of clarity right now in the business, hopefully, and that we can all work together as suppliers to move forward without unnecessary disruptions in the business. Our expectation is we work together with all the suppliers without interruptions, support each other, and we can be able to achieve our goals easily.
The figures you've mentioned are not just simple money that you can get anywhere within Nairobi.
Yeah.
But looking at these figures, Mohamed, of course, the creditors, for the unsecured creditors, how many are we talking about? And in terms of this transaction you're talking about of the land, once it materializes, how soon will it materialize in the first place? Then what will be on the priority list when it comes to offsetting all these debts?
We've got to treat all creditors equally. The only ones who had some sort of kind of advantage were the secured, because they're secured. Because for them, they don't lose out whether the company, I mean, really, even if the company is to go in liquidation, they become the sole beneficiaries in the business. And you see, now that's the thing about the Act, which now provides some sort of level playing ground or shield even to those who are unsecured. So in terms of priority, what the way the law is, we can't kind of seem to favor any other person. It is as it is, what we've negotiated and what we've talked about. Of course, we'll have to look at various ways in how the cash that we expect to be retained from the sale of land can be optimized to be able to generate more inventory in the system, to create better cycles of inventory cycles, so that we can be able to grow ourselves even faster.
All right.
Yeah.
So if I get you clearly, Mohamed, the plan is basically once the funds from the land transaction come in, it will be actually paid out in a very orderly manner.
Yes.
No preference to whichever groups out of all the creditors you have.
It will be paid based on the way we mentioned it in the CVA.
Okay.
Because there's a class, there are three classes of those creditors. You know, you've got the unsecured, preferred, and the secured. So the payments are going to be done based on what we had provided in that document.
Okay.
There's going to be a lump sum, and then also we'll have also a plan of how the balance is going to be paid over a period of time.
I'm happy you've brought up the CVA because I was coming to that as my next question. The customer voluntary agreement arrangement, sorry,
yes.
was endorsed just a few days ago at the Bomas of Kenya. Yeah. And this particular agreement is tipped to be a very interesting twist into the future of the company. Just explain this to us. What will the CVA specifically entail so that we are able to ensure that the company doesn't go into liquidation?
There's going to be independent supervision of the plan. This is why Mr. Owen Koimburi was appointed. And you know, his role is independent in the sense that he has to make sure that whatever has been provided is followed. So we'll be under scrutiny from the supervisor, who is an agent of the court, and also has to be independent and serve both interests, both with the creditors and Uchumi. And we'll also have the suppliers who will be working with, who will be part and parcel of how we work together in the business.
Yes.
Moving forward. So that level of transparency, I believe, should keep us on toes enough to see that the business can move forward positively. Yeah.
And for this CVA, are there any risks if it is not implemented to the fullest?
Well, if it doesn't work, then the next thing will be obviously liquidation, and everyone loses out. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's anyone who will be out there trying to see or look for ways of not making it work, a few individuals will benefit for it not to work, but many people will suffer. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the small, medium SMEs, other local suppliers, it will be really a very sad affair for them to lose out. Investors, shareholders, you know, it's going to be a very unfortunate event, if at all it has to go that way. Yeah.
So from this CVA and the land transaction, once it materializes, there was also an aspect of a 30% haircut.
Yes.
Could you just also explain this to us?
Well, the debt has been divided into three parts. The first part is requested is for the 30% haircut or discount. Let me not say a haircut. It's actually, you know, it's a discount which we requested from suppliers. And the 40% is to be parked aside as convertible preference shares.
Yes.
Which means that, you know, as the business goes, you know, and you know we're going to have those 12 months reviews. We can consider maybe whether to convert or to pay them, you know, depending on the cash flow that is going to be generated, and at that time the value of the organization. Yes.
Okay.
And then the other 30%, and the 30% is to be paid over a period of 5 to 6 years. It can even be shorter, because if we all work together and support, then the period can even be shorter to actually pay this debt. So really, it depends with the onboarding of the suppliers and how we can work together on this matter, because we really do need all the suppliers to be on board on this for it to work well.
Okay.
Yes.
As of 2015, Uchumi was boasting of a branch network of over 35. To date, how has this changed in terms of the size of the branches and of course the number of staff?
In 2015, the number of branches was around 27. And they were reduced. By the time I joined in 2016, there were about 20. Many of the non-performing branches were closed. We also decided now to limit our presence in the region. That was in Uganda and Tanzania. And we've regularly reviewed the performance of those branches, because also of the expected future change of strategy. Because if you look at even customers' behavior, consumer behaviors at the present moment, they've changed due to very many factors. You know, there's more influx, for example, on people ordering online. There's the neighborhood stores, which people prefer to go to. And there are so many malls which have actually come into the market. So where I am, I'm not very worried about the locations. I know we can get availability. We can get good locations in future with the existing ones or even with other ones. I wouldn't be very worried about that. But it's something, even with the ones that we have, they're fairly, I can say they're good locations, and we can even get better ones in future.
Okay. And still staying with the network sides, of course, these are some of the areas that our viewers would also be keen to find out. Could you name the 5 locations that are currently still running? And from your own assessment, how is the foot traffic in terms of sales and turnover?
Okay, the ones which are open, the way they are is the Aga Khan Walk, there's the Adams Arcade, there's Jogo Road, and then there's Meru and Eldoret. And of course, we are still looking at Nairobi West and Langata Hyper. Okay, so there are 7 in total, but the ones which are operating are 5. So, and we are still in negotiations with the landlords because of the current situation as it is. The footfall, as you said, is not good because the branches are yet to be fully stocked, because we've been having cash flow challenges. And we've not been having the right support from the suppliers due to fear of closure. Some suppliers will think that what will happen to Uchumi in the incident, for example, if today you are shut down or if you have to go through a winding up. So many people are thinking of the worst and the negative side. They were skeptical and scared about working with us. So I think right now, by re-engaging the suppliers and with the renewed confidence that will come into the business, we believe and expect that the footfall will start coming back. And of course, we'll have to undertake some certain marketing activities to create awareness and confidence to the consumer, to the customer, to come back to our locations.
All right. And Mohamed, in all your remarks, I've not heard you talking of a bailout from the government. Is it a viable option you're considering, or is it far-fetched?
That's a tricky question. No, of course, I'm working with the government. I'm liaising with the government on how we can work together, but not necessarily on a bailout, okay? Because it's been done before, but there are other ways in which you can work with the government to see how Uchumi can move forward. For example, working with SMEs can be a good opportunity to work with the government on how we can cooperate to see how we can be able to grow some of these local brands, local companies. So there's several engagements which are happening. There's nothing really to pinpoint at the present moment. The key thing is, of course, we are trying to see how we can be able to finalize on some, for example, like the land transaction. And of course, we are working with the government on that. And should there be anything thereafter, then it can be a separate discussion with the government. But as it is, there's been no discussion of a bailout with the government, yes.
All right.
But there are discussions of possible people who may be interested maybe to work with us in terms of investments in the business.
And Mohamed, as we wrap up, I just want to get your closing thoughts. Do you feel Uchumi can be turned around, and can it really bounce back to the Uchumi Kenyans were used to back in the good years? Is it a viable project, or is it a going concern?
Well, what the CV entails definitely allows us to restructure the balance sheet. So automatically we start moving into the going concern aspect. Now from an accounting definition of a going concern, then at least now we get to a good working capital ratio. I'm here and I've held on to this position because I believe it's a brand or it's a project that can work. Even the staff who are there, they're all dedicated to make sure that it's something that can be able to take off. If it was a project that we feel was doomed to fail, many of us would have been away. But we believe, and it's a good turning point for us at this moment to take advantage of the situation. We may not be the way we were before, but we may be bigger, maybe in other ways, using different strategies.
All right.
Yeah.
Mohamed Mohamed, who is the CEO of Uchumi, a man who continues to exude a lot of optimism when it comes to turning around a company that a bunch of his predecessors had challenges. He is very optimistic that they'll be able to turn things around if they get the right support. Well, that has been our discussion for today on the Trading Bell. And of course, it's now time for us to take a look at markets analysis. Well, that's where we wrap it up for today's episode of the Trading Bell. Interesting discussions there from Uchumi CEO. He's quite having a very interesting outlook for the retail chain. Let's see how it will pan out in the coming days. Remember, you can always just engage with us on our social media platforms appearing at the bottom end of your screen. And let's keep it locked here on KT News, where we bring you the Trading Bell. My name is Agina. See you next time.